I still remember the exact moment my life split into two pieces. The moment I realized the woman I called mom never saw me as her daughter. It happened at my dad's birthday party. A house full of people, music playing, champagne glasses clinking, laughter echoing through the living room. And right in the middle of it all, my mother looked me straight in the eyes and said something that froze the entire room. "You're not even a part of this family." At first, everyone thought she was joking, but I knew she wasn't, because of the way she looked at me. Cold, sharp, like I was a stranger who had walked into the wrong house. Let me take you back a few hours before that moment, because none of this started at the party. It started years ago. I'm Lena, and for most of my life, I believed I had a normal family. My dad was successful. He owned a small chain of car dealerships. My mom stayed home, managed the house, and made sure everything looked perfect from the outside. Perfect house, perfect family photos, perfect holiday dinners. But behind that perfect image, something was always off. When I was little, I noticed small things. My mom never hugged me the way she hugged my brother. She never came to my school events. She never said she was proud of me. If I got an A on a test, she'd shrug and say, "Well, that's what you're supposed to do." But if my brother got a B, she'd celebrate like he'd won a Nobel Prize. Back then, I told myself it was normal. Maybe she just had a favorite child. Maybe I was imagining things. But as I got older, it became impossible to ignore. My brother Jason got everything. A brand new car when he turned 16, a paid-for apartment near his college. Dad even offered him a job at one of the dealerships after graduation. Me? I worked 2 jobs through college, paid my own tuition, paid my own rent. And when I asked my mom once why things were so different between us, she smiled in that tight, fake way she always did and said, "Life isn't fair, Lena. Get used to it." Still, I never questioned whether I belonged in the family, because my dad loved me, or at least, I thought he did. Until the night of his birthday party. My dad was turning 60, and my mom decided to throw the biggest party our house had ever seen. Caterers, bartenders, live music, even a photographer walking around taking pictures. It looked more like a corporate gala than a birthday party. I almost didn't go, but my dad personally called me 2 weeks before and said, "Lena, it wouldn't be the same without you there." So I bought a dress, wrapped his gift, and drove 3 hours to the house I grew up in. The moment I walked in, I could already feel it, that familiar tension. My mom was standing near the bar, talking to a group of her friends. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect smile. But the second she saw me, that smile disappeared. She walked over slowly, scanning me from head to toe. "You're wearing that?" she asked. I blinked. "It's just a dress, Mom." She leaned closer so no one else could hear. "You could have at least tried not to embarrass the family tonight." I felt my chest tighten, but I forced a smile. "It's Dad's birthday. Let's not do this tonight." For a moment, I thought she might actually let it go. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. "Just try not to draw too much attention to yourself." As if I was some kind of problem she had to manage. I ignored her and went to find my dad. When he saw me, his face lit up. "Lena," he said, pulling me into a hug. And for a moment, I felt like a little kid again. Safe, wanted, loved. "You came," he said. Of course I did. I handed him the small box I brought. He opened it right there. Inside was an old photo I had restored and framed. A picture of the 2 of us fishing when I was 8 years old. For a second, his eyes actually watered. "This is perfect," he said quietly. Across the room, my mom was watching us, and she looked furious. I tried to ignore it. The party kept going. People were drinking, laughing, telling stories about my dad. But the tension kept building. I could feel my mom's eyes on me the entire night. And then, about an hour later, it happened. Someone asked for a family photo. The photographer gathered everyone in the living room. My dad in the middle, my mom beside him, my brother and his wife on one side, and me standing near the edge. Just before the picture was taken, my mom suddenly stepped forward, and in front of everyone, she pointed at me. "You shouldn't be in this photo." The room went silent. I laughed awkwardly. "Very funny, Mom." But she didn't laugh. Her voice turned sharp. "I'm serious." The photographer looked confused. "Ma'am?" And then my mom said the sentence that changed everything. "You're not even part of this family." Gasps filled the room. My brother looked away. My dad said nothing. And something inside me finally snapped, because at that moment, I realized something terrifying. No one was surprised. Not my brother, not my dad, not even my mom's friends. Like they all knew something that I didn't. So I looked straight at my father and asked the question that had been sitting in the back of my mind my entire life. "Dad, what is she talking about?" And the way he froze, the way the color drained from his face, that's when I knew. There was a secret in this family, a secret so big, my own mother was willing to destroy me in front of a room full of strangers to keep it buried. But what she didn't know was, I had already discovered something weeks earlier, something hidden in a dusty folder in my dad's office. A document, one piece of paper, that proved the biggest lie this family had ever told. And in that moment, standing in the middle of that silent room, I made a decision. If my mom wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone, then I was going to reveal the truth. Right there, in front of the entire party. But before I could say a word, my dad suddenly grabbed my arm and whispered something in my ear that made my blood run cold. "Lena, don't." Because if I opened my mouth, this family wouldn't just be embarrassed. It would be destroyed. And honestly, after what my mom just did, that sounded perfect to me. But what happened next? No one at that party was prepared for. I looked down at my dad's hand gripping my arm, tight, almost desperate. "Lena, don't," he whispered again. For a second, I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Fear. Not embarrassment, not anger. Fear. Like he knew exactly what I was about to say, and he was terrified of it. The entire living room had gone completely silent. Dozens of people were staring at us. My mom stood there with her arms crossed, her face cold and unreadable, like she had just thrown a match into a room full of gasoline and was waiting to see what would explode first. I slowly pulled my arm away from my dad. "You want me to leave the photo?" I said quietly. My mom shrugged. "That would probably be best." A few people shifted awkwardly. Someone near the back whispered, "What the hell is going on?" But my mom didn't care. She had that same calm expression she always wore when she was being cruel. Like humiliating me was just another normal Tuesday for her. I felt my heart pounding in my chest. For years I had stayed quiet. For years I had swallowed every insult, every cold shoulder, every moment she made me feel like I didn't belong. But tonight, she pushed too far. And the worst part? No one stopped her. Not my brother, not my dad. No one. So I looked around the room, at the guests, at the relatives, at the neighbors, people who had known me my entire life. And I said something that made my mom's smile fade just a little. "You're right." The room got even quieter. My mom tilted her head slightly. "Oh," she said. "You agree with me for once?" I nodded slowly. "You're right. I'm not part of this family." For a moment, she looked almost pleased. But then I continued. "And honestly, after what I found out recently, I'm actually glad." Now my dad stepped forward quickly. "Lena," he said sharply, "stop." But I was already turning toward the crowd, because suddenly, I understood everything. All the years of distance, all the strange looks, all the moments that never made sense before. It was like 1,000 puzzle pieces suddenly snapping together. And the picture they formed was ugly. "You all seem pretty confused," I said calmly. "So let me help clear things up." My mom's voice cut through the air like a knife. "That's enough!" But I ignored her, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of her anymore. "You see," I continued, "a few weeks ago I stopped by Dad's office to drop something off." My dad's jaw tightened. I noticed, and so did my mom. "That's when I accidentally found something interesting." My brother shifted uncomfortably. "What are you talking about?" he muttered. I reached into my purse slowly and pulled out a folded piece of paper, the same one I had stared at for hours the night I found it, the document that explained everything. Across the room, my mom's expression changed, just slightly, but I saw it, a flicker of panic. "Lena," my dad said again. His voice was quieter now, more pleading. "Please." I looked at him, really looked at him, and suddenly I realized something painful. He had known all along. He had watched my mom treat me like an outsider my entire life, and he never once stopped her. So I turned back to the guests. "Funny thing about paperwork," I said. "Sometimes it tells stories people try really hard to hide." I unfolded the document slowly. You could hear the rustle of the paper in the silent room. My mom suddenly stepped forward. "Give me that." But I stepped back. "No," I said calmly. "You've had 30 years to control the story." Now it was my turn, and said the sentence that made the entire room erupt in shocked murmurs. "Because according to this, my mother isn't the woman standing in this room." Dead silence. My mom's face went completely pale. My brother blinked in confusion. "What are you talking about?" I looked straight at my mom. "My birth certificate lists someone named Lena Carter as my mother." I let the words hang in the air. Then I added quietly, "And unless you've been secretly going by another name for 30 years, I tilted my head. "That's not you." The room exploded with whispers. My dad closed his eyes like he had been punched. My brother looked from me to our mom, completely stunned. "Mom?" he said. My mom's expression hardened instantly. "That document is fake." But her voice had lost its confidence. I raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Then I reached into my purse again and pulled out another paper. "And is the hospital record fake too?" Now she didn't say anything, because she couldn't. People were staring at her now. The same people who had been laughing and drinking in this house an hour ago. Now they were watching the family fall apart in real time. My brother shook his head slowly. "This doesn't make any sense." I looked at him sadly. "It actually makes perfect sense." I gestured toward our mom. "Think about it. Think about how she's treated me my entire life. Think about how different things were between you and me." Jason opened his mouth, then slowly closed it again, because he was realizing something. The same thing I realized weeks ago. This wasn't favoritism. This was something else, something deeper, something darker. My mom suddenly snapped. "That's enough!" Her voice echoed through the house. "You have no idea what you're talking about." But now people were watching her carefully, and the cracks in her perfect mask were starting to show. So I said the one thing I knew would push her over the edge. "You're right. I don't know everything." I stepped closer to her. "But I do know one thing." I lowered my voice. "So why don't you tell everyone the rest?" She stared at me, her eyes burning with hatred. And for the first time in my life, I realized something terrifying. My mom didn't just dislike me. She despised me. And whatever secret she had been hiding for 3 decades, she would rather destroy this entire family than let it come out. But what she didn't realize was, the truth was already halfway out, and there was no stopping it now. Because the next person to speak wasn't me. It was my dad. And the words that came out of his mouth next changed everything.